Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to our Thursday episode of Gills in the Blood TV, where I have a look back at the week that was, which again has been quiet. So predominantly tonight we'll be looking ahead to the visit of Southend United to the Priestfield this coming Saturday. And in the absence of Boz and Stocky again, I do have a guest appearance tonight from Reese. Reese Hurd, you can find him on Twitter, co-hosts the very good Gills Fancast podcast. So go and check him out. Go and check out their podcast if you've not done it already. It is a really good listen. Comes out probably on average on a fortnightly basis, talking about all things Gillingham Football Club. So we will get to his thoughts a little bit later in the episode. But in terms of the week that was, like I say, it's very, very quiet. We all know that Oxford last Saturday simply wasn't good enough. Too many had a bad day at the office. Too many put in their worst performance in the Gills shirt this season. And it's one that we quickly have to write off. In terms of local press this week, Steve Evans has spoken in the Medway Messenger and says that the boys have been doing double sessions this week, have all responded really well to a specific training programme that they put in place after last week's capitulation, and everyone's reacted really well. It goes on to say about it was a team that nobody would have recognised first period last weekend, and I think that's a fair assumption, a fair assessment of things. And yeah, we come out and we restored a little bit of pride second half, but overall it wasn't good enough, and overall we don't want to see it again, we know that. But fairness to Steve Evans, inside the Thursday edition, Evans takes his share of the blame, that's the headline. He says, you look back at shape and think, did we get it wrong? The system, one or two of the personnel, yes, and we will take the criticism. We take the criticism as a management team. You have to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with your group. We are not blameless as a management team, and I said that to the players at half-time and at the end of the game, and also when we met on Monday. We got some things wrong, but we still need to see real desire and commitment to work hard. I think that was probably one of the biggest disappointments last weekend for everyone, was that we just seemed to sack it off and roll over too easily, and that's not been us all season. But we put it to bed now, and fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. That's pretty much it, really, to be honest. Again, talking about transfers, Steve Evans has decided against bringing in another keeper, just in case Joe Walsh is not fit, for the bench. Just amalgamating the names of our two keepers there. But it does seem likely that Joe will be available to be on the bench at the weekend for the visit of Southend United. And Steve has been quite open in what he says. Do I want to write off 20 to 30 grand between now and January of the club's money, the supporters' money? Ultimately, do I want to spend money that if Joe Walsh misses Saturday but then is fit to play on Tuesday? It's fair enough. If we have to put Simon Royce on the bench for one more game, then so be it. I think Jack Bonham's in good shape. So catastrophe aside, I think we'll be absolutely fine. But I'd imagine that young Joe Walsh will be absolutely fine come the weekend. Right. That's pretty much it, really. Like I said, there's not much been going on between games at the moment now that the transfer window has slammed shut. Obviously, we're all aware, in terms of an ex-Gills player, friend of the channel, it was great to see Tom Eaves net the winner Tuesday night, I think it was, for Hull City in their 1-0 victory over Sheffield Wednesday. He came off the bench and got his first goal for his new club, for the Tigers, which is great to see. It gets them back to winning ways at the KCOM Stadium as well and picks them up a massive 3 points. So let's hope that Tom goes on a bit of a run now, starts to play on a regular basis and starts doing what we know he can do, and that's scoring goals on a regular basis. But in terms of us, obviously, like I've already said, there is a game coming up this weekend, and this lot travel to Kent. Out of form, out of luck, out of ideas for the most part of the season. That's probably words that you could sum up to talk about Southend United. They've had an horrendous run of it in terms of the first month or so of the season. And currently only Wimbledon and Bolton sit below them in the league, and their record is played 10, won 1, drawn 1, lost 8, conceded 25 goals in League One. Struggling is not the word. In recent seasons, you'd probably say that's a great opportunity for them to come to Kent and win 1-0, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I think our home form has been very good on the whole. If you look at the 5 games we've played, which we'll do in more detail in a second. But like I always do now that we've had enough games, the form table, last 6 for Gills. 1, 2, drawn 2, lost 2, so it's 8 points from 18. Southend's is 1 win, 1 draw and 4 defeats, so only 4 points from 18 available. Doesn't make for great reading. In terms of us at home, like I've said, decent enough. We've played 5, we've won 2, we've drawn 1 and we've lost 2. Them defeats came in a very poor performance against Burton, and then in what Plenty said was a harsh defeat at the hands of league leaders Ipswich a couple of Saturdays back. So 2 draws. The draw in that game as well, don't forget, was Blackpool. We were very, very good for the most part. Just a funny 5 minutes cost us. So if you look at that, Burton awful. Should have beaten Blackpool. Beat Bolton really well. Yes, it was a lot of youngsters, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and we did everything superbly. Thought we were great second half against Wickham after a cagey first period. And we were really unlucky at home to Ipswich a couple of Saturdays back, weren't we? Let's be honest. Really good effort in terms of commitment and desire and everything that we didn't do last weekend. Southend away, played 5, won 1, lost 4. Solitary victory on the road came at MK Dons, a 1-0 win. But aside from that, they've conceded 13 in them other 4 games. So that's over 3 a game, which is not a recipe for getting yourselves up the table. They've only scored 11 goals this season in 10 games, and 6 of them have come in 2 matches. So they're having problems at both ends of the pitch. But if we turn up and perform like we did last Saturday at the Kassem Stadium, then there's no reason why they won't turn us over. But I don't think we'll play like that again. They've got no manager either, which makes it a bit more intriguing. Henrik Larsson, the big name that's been linked to the job at Roots Hall. Adam Barrett was another one. But after breaking news tonight coming out of Millwall that Neil Harris has resigned, it seems, I think Adam Barrett is now their caretaker manager. So whether that has any bearing on him and whether he goes to Southend full time, we'll have to wait and see. One man that has been ruled out by Chris Humphreys on Twitter, who is the local Southend press man, is Steve Lovell, our former boss. He is not in contention. In terms of playing staff for Southend, they're struggling, like I say, at both ends. You look at their squad compared to what it was 2-3 seasons ago, even last season. I know they had horrendous injury problems, but you're struggling to find lots of quality in there. Top scorer Stephen Humphreys with 5 goals. Next after that is youngster Charlie Kelman, I think it is, with 3. I think he's the lad that scored from his own half last season. I think he was only 17 or 18. So yeah, it's probably a good opportunity for us to get back on the horse, back to winning ways. But like every game, we have to do everything correctly. In terms of team news for us, I think aside from Matty Willock, we're absolutely fully fit. So my team would be Jack Bonham in goal. I'm going to make 3 changes from last Saturday, and I'm changing the system. I'm going back to 4 at the back. So I'm going Jack Bonham in goal, Barry Fuller and Tom O'Connor as the fullbacks, with Max Amer and Connor Ogilvie at centre back. I'm then going to have a midfield 2 of Mark Byrne and Alfie Jones sitting in front. I'm then going to play Michael and Jolly as the centre forward. And my mid 3 in behind him would be Mark Marshall from the right, Ben Pringle from the left, and Ollie Lee from the number 10. I think it's time to try and unleash all 3 of Marshall, Lee and Pringle from the off. I think in terms of pedigree and what they've done in their careers, they're probably the 3 biggest signings that we made in the transfer window. I think Michael and Jolly was really unlucky with a hamstring strain after scoring that match-winning double against Wickham. Brandon Hanlon's been in and out in terms of goal scoring. Can't fault the lad for work rate and desire. Never ever once have you seen him wanting for trying to win games, trying to make things happen, even when everything's a lost cause. Always chasing down, always harrying defenders, goalkeepers. But strikers need to score goals, and another one is Alex Jakubiak. He is still our top scorer, but hasn't scored for a while now, since he was ill a few weeks ago. It seems he's not quite got back to his best, so I'm going to put him on the bench. And like I say, I'll have Michael and Jolly up front. So my bench will be Joe Walsh, Jack Tucker, Stuart O'Keefe, Michael Mandron, Regan Charles Cook, Brandon Hanlon, Alex Jakubiak. Right, before I do my match prediction, I am going to let you listen to the dulcet tones of the Gills fancast, Reese, and this is what he's got to say ahead of Saturday's fixture.
Saturday's game against Southend presents, on paper at least, an ideal opportunity for us to get back on track and back on that winning road after last week's thoroughly disappointing trip to Oxford United, where obviously we we were well beaten and ended up losing 3-0. Of course, we've only played the 10 league games so far this season, so it'd be far too overreactionary to say that Saturday's game at Priestfield is falling into the category of must win, because for me no game at such an early stage of the season would fall into that category. But it's really, really important that we do see a reaction, and a positive reaction from the team and the management staff to what happened last week at the Kassam Stadium, because as much as you don't win or lose anything after 11 games, we are only on 10 points from the first 10 games, and I do believe that our performances warranted more points than we've got, but the table doesn't lie at the end of the day. And should we do the business and beat a Southend team on Saturday that have seemingly been in complete disarray for virtually the entire campaign so far, and have conceded the same amount of goals as Bolton Wanderers, which I think is quite a remarkable stat, given the situation that Bolton have been in up until 2 or 3 weeks ago. And yeah, should we go and do what many would expect and beat Southend on Saturday, then we move on to 13 points from 11 games. And although it wouldn't be a perfect start, I think people would look at it and say, it's not too bad, it's not the end of the world as a platform to build on. But should we, however, lose at Priestfield against, one of arguably the worst performing team in the division so far this season, then all it will do is it'll fuel the ammunition of those that are aggravated by Steve Evans being in our dugout. And of course, all the time we're not winning, that vocal minority will continue to voice their opinion. So I think it's important for us all that we get back to winning ways on Saturday. Obviously, last time out at Priestfield, we performed well against Ipswich, and probably should have got something out of the game. So hopefully we can go back to that kind of performance, the kind of performance we saw against Wickham, where we won 2-0. Because from what I've seen this season, I firmly believe that what we saw at Oxford last week isn't the norm, and that's not what our side are about. We had probably 8, 9, 10 players who were below par on Saturday, and that ultimately contributed to us being well beaten. So if they can go back to the performance levels that they have been for much of the campaign, then I believe we will get the 3 points. And I'm backing us to win 3-1 on Saturday. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, because our record this season suggests we don't do that too often. But I do think we'll be comfortable enough winners in the end. So yeah, 3-1 Gills.
Thank you, Reece. Appreciate your thoughts, mate. Always an interesting listen, like I say. Get over to Twitter, and I think they're on Facebook as well, and get following and interacting with the Gills fancast, and Reece, and also James, who co-hosts it with him. Right, you've had Reece's thoughts. One final thought from me is a score prediction, and I am quietly confident that we will be absolutely fine this week. I think we'll get a reaction. I'm going to go for Gillingham 3, Southend 1, and I'm going to say our goal scorers will be Mark Marshall with 1 and Mick Allen Jolly at the double again. Right, that's enough from me this evening. We shall be back Saturday with Matchday Live. And then just a little word of warning, there will be a Monday review this week after the weekend's fixture, and then there might be a little bit of a gap because I am going into hospital next Thursday for my ACL reconstruction operation. So no chance of a video Thursday. I will be absolutely high as a kite, even if I do get home that evening. Fingers crossed I can be back for the weekend. I might try and do a Q&A. Yeah, in fact, I will definitely do a Q&A. So I'll get the tweet out about that in the week, so you can get your questions in, thoughts on general stuff, particularly how you think the season's gone so far. And then, yeah, after that, fingers crossed, should be back to normal in terms of content coming out on a regular basis. So if you can bear with us for a few days, it would be greatly appreciated. Going to do my absolute best, even when I've had the operation, to get the games, even if I have to change my ticket and stuff like that for a little while. Right, that's enough from me and my medical update. We will see you Saturday in the ground for Matchday Live. Hopefully it'll be myself, Boz and Stocky. Hope to see Glenn and Owen and any other regular contributors. Probably bump into Reece and James, like I say. And fingers crossed for a good performance and 3 points. But until next time, up the Gills.